And of course, Judicial Watch is known, we're obviously doing direct lawsuits here against government entities to get them to do the right thing and to stop them from violating the law. Another law the government always violates is the Freedom of Information Act. The Federal Freedom of Information Act, passed, I think it was in 1967. It was signed by President Johnson. President Johnson didn't want to sign it, from what I recall. So the left has used the Freedom of Information Act, or was known for using the Freedom of Information Act, to harass the efforts by the federal government to combat communism here and abroad. I mean, that's kind of what the big focus of FOIA was in the 70s and early 80s. And Judicial Watch came around, and we recognized the Freedom of Information Act as a tool that could be used to advance conservative values. So as an educational foundation, we could educate people about what the government was really up to from, in many ways, a conservative perspective, because we want smaller government, we want our values protected, we want economic freedom, strong national defense and national security and things like that. And we began almost, well, actually, this month we're celebrating Judicial Watch's 25th anniversary, 25 years. During the Clinton administration, there was a lot of corruption to be uncovered. And Judicial Watch was the first conservative group that used the FOIA on behalf of the values of limited government and exposing the corruption behind what is typically seen as somewhat innocuous government activity. In my view, pretty much every time the government wants to engage in a major program, it involves corruption. So few leftists, and certainly the media, never thought to investigate the government from that perspective. Their view on using FOIA was, oh my gosh, the government has this program, but it's not big enough, and it isn't helping enough poor people. And it was all about advancing the welfare state and or the enterprise of big government, as opposed to highlighting the damage that big government does and the corruption behind it. And so the biggest corruption scandal of all time in American history is the targeting of President Trump. I'm sure you agree. And Judicial Watch has been second to none in using the Freedom of Information Act to pry loose details about that scandal that the government doesn't want you to know about. Specifically, the Obama administration wanted hidden, that the deep state today wants hidden. And along those lines, we've been getting documents, certainly from the Justice Department and the FBI, but the State Department as well. And we have new documents out of the State Department further cementing the kind of the view that the State Department was a key player in the Spygate affair against President Trump. How is that? Because you had State Department officials working with Christopher Steele, the Fusion GPS hired spy. Fusion GPS, of course, was paid by the Clintons and the DNC. Steele was also paid for with FBI funds during the campaign. And he was working with the State Department to launder information into the FBI and into the Justice Department, and to coordinate with the president's political enemies, or then candidate Trump's political enemies in Congress. And Judicial Watch has uncovered most of that. And one of the key players was Jonathan Weiner. And Jonathan Weiner was hired by John Kerry to be their Libya expert. But he was a pal of Christopher Steele's. He was a pal of Sidney Blumenthal, a Hillary Clinton friend, and Cody Shear, another Hillary Clinton friend, two individuals who are pretty controversial, and that's my charitable way of putting it. Sidney Blumenthal had such a disreputable reputation that the Obama people supposedly told the Clinton State Department, he can't work there. We don't want him part of your team. So what did Hillary Clinton do? She used him as a secret advisor on her secret email system. That was uncovered by Judicial Watch. So this guy, Jonathan Weiner, admits he's talking to Blumenthal and Weiner, Blumenthal, Steele, and this Cody Shear about this Russiagate fraud. He didn't say it was a fraud, but these Russiagate allegations. And he's working with Steele, sharing his information internally with the State Department, one of his bosses, Victoria Nuland, who was, I think, the top European official for John Kerry. And then they were kicking it up to John Kerry. So John Kerry knows about the dossier. And we have these new documents showing that in September of 2016. So what Judicial Watch does, we ask for the documents, we get told no, we get the proverbial hand to the face, as I call it. They give us the hand to the face. Actually, that's better than what they usually do. The hand to the face is better than just turning their back and just refusing to respond to our request. So we filed a lawsuit, this time in concert with our friends at the Daily Caller News Foundation, for documents about what Christopher Steele was up to at the State Department. And so we're getting dozens of documents, many of which are classified. So Christopher Steele was involved in classified information gathering and dissemination of records at the State Department too. So it's September of 2016, a few weeks before the election, and we get this new batch of emails that show that Steele was working up, that Victoria Nuland and Jonathan Weiner set up a meeting to talk about a Russian matter in New York in September of 2016. And by the way, it's almost exactly the same day or days that Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS, the other character in this, was also meeting with state people on this issue. So it was a full court press. And why is Nuland important on this? Because she's already admitted that they knew about the dossier from Steele in July of 2016, the State Department did. Remember, it's not just the Justice Department and FBI scandal, Spygate, and the smear campaign against Trump. It's a State Department scandal. They were involved. When the FBI, the Strzok crew and the Comey and McCabe crew wanted to meet with Steele in the UK, they can't do that operation without consulting their colleagues in the State Department. Victoria Nuland approved that meeting, where they went to collaborate with the Clinton campaign in Europe. The FBI did. And she's still talking about Russia in September of 2016, 3 or 4 months later. And we've already gotten documents showing that Nuland was doing it even after President Trump was elected in November, trying to get the dirt out, working with Steny Hoyer's top people. Who's Steny Hoyer? The number 2 in the Democratic majority right now in the House. And on top of that, the State Department was trying to torpedo the Trump administration by getting classified information to its friends in Congress. Nuland was involved in that. We have the documents that show where they say, I forget who wrote it, they say we made the deadline. And you know what the deadline was? Inauguration Day. They're pushing classified information to undermine President Trump. You know, I don't have a security clearance, but I'm pretty darn confident that pushing classified information and putting it out there and giving it to people with the hopes that it has a politically negative impact on someone is against the rules. You share and disseminate classified information to advance the national security interests, not to torpedo a president that you don't like politically, which is what the State Department was doing. Why would they otherwise be sending out material that they knew they wouldn't be allowed to send once Trump's appointees came over to the State Department?